Spare a thought for the England cricket team in two consecutive editions of the T20 World Cup. Now they've been denied a spot in the finals by India. However, whilst their loss in the semis of 2024 was rather one-sided, the same cannot be said about the loss in 2026. It was very close and really came down to some very fine margins. After all, 7-run loss means that they were basically 1-6 away from forcing a super over in a match that had seen 253 runs scored in the first innings. That is bonkers when you think about it, but in games like this, the margins become very fine. One dot ball, one wicket here or there can change everything. The other thing, and this is something that was very evident in the Indian innings, catches. If you're holding on to your catches, if your fielding was good, this was a game that was there for the taking. Unfortunately for England, they ended up dropping not one but two catches, and one of them proved to be perhaps costlier than most when England skipper Harry Brook ended up dropping Sanju Samson. In fact, after the match, Brook basically said that, look, that was the point where we essentially lost the game. This is what he had to say. He said, I'll hold my hands up and admit I made a big mistake dropping Sanju Samson. We weren't good enough in the field, and you can't afford that against India. That's true. You can maybe afford that against some of the smaller teams, the younger teams, the associate nations, but up against a top side like India in home conditions, you can't afford to be dropping catches. And not just that, you can't afford to be dropping absolute dolly catches, because again, this wasn't one of those catches where he had to reach out with an arm and he only brushed fingertips. Brook was there. It was a catch that was down his throat and he somehow ended up fumbling it. Now, bear in mind that that point in time, Sanju Samson was in the nascent parts of his innings. He hadn't even crossed the 20-run mark. Get him out then, and you're potentially looking at a very different game. That's not to say that no one else would have managed to score big runs if not for Sanju. I'm sure someone could have. The point is that instead of 250, you may have been sitting at 230, 220. That was imminently chaseable, as is proved by the fact that England got to about 240 odd themselves. So it was a big error. However, keeping all of that aside, Brook himself admitted that, listen, I'm proud of how the tournament went. This is what he had to say. He said, look, we had a good tournament and we should be proud of that. We were stuck in it the whole game, unfortunately ended up on the wrong side. And again, look, it's fair to say that he's right. This was a game of such fine margins that you can look at it two ways. Either it was Brook's catch that ended up being the difference maker, or it was the fact that Jasprit Bumrah bowled an absolute worldie of an 18th over that basically killed off the game, that somehow it actually even reached that point. Bear in mind, if you're chasing 254, it shouldn't be that you're reaching an 18th over while still alive in the game. However, Jasprit Bumrah, the magic that he weaved at that point in time, mind-blowing. And it was really a game of fine margin. So England can count themselves unfortunate. Yes, they gave a good fight, but as he says, unfortunately ended up on the wrong side. But do you agree with Brook's assessment that yes, dropping Samson, a big mistake that potentially changed the course of the match for the worse as far as the away team were concerned? Let us know that in the comments below, and don't forget as always to like this video, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel, tap that bell icon, follow us also on social media. We're on Instagram, X and Facebook, and stay tuned for more such updates from the world of sport.